It is the 42nd millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor of mankind has sat immobile on the golden throne. Yeah, I know, we've heard it all before. I'll save you the rest of the litany. Well, it's that time. A viewer requested me, a tanker's view, to take a look at the mighty Imperium of Man's mighty Leman Russ battle tank. And, well, I'm going to give it to you because nothing gets the algorithm off quite like a 40K vid. So, let's get on with it.
For the Emperor!
But, before I begin, did you know exactly 0 of you are subscribed with notifications on? Well, you know what you can do to help a dude out? Click that sub button, maybe tap the thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you want to see next or what I could do better. Anyways, back to our regularly scheduled snark. The Leman Russ battle tank is the most common tank in the Astra Militarum. Now, if you're not familiar with 40K or 40K terms, that's okay. I'm going to put some bad translations on the screen up here and do my best to talk in normie for you. Now, the pattern was originally developed back in the dark age of technology using an STC, but the design was lost during the Age of Strife until being rediscovered by the 6th Legion Space Wolves. And the Mechanicus honored the 6th by naming it after their Primarch. I'll give you 3 guesses to what his name was, but I bet you only need 1. So before I go any further, I'm going to lay out some caveats and general disclaimers so I can preempt the keyboard commandos waiting to harangue me for attempting to crap on the Imperium of Man's most popular tank. Because there's no fandom more polarizing as the 40K faction fandom. And when it comes to faction love, oh, they're terrible. Anyway, so yes, I'm going to compare the Russ to the contemporary man battle tanks. Yes, I know it's completely unfair and unrealistic, but so is 40K, alright? They're plastic toys for Pete's sake. And anyway, the whole point is to see whether or not if it's evolved or de-evolved compared to what we're doing today and what the Imperium could maybe do better. So, and finally, it's only an opinion. So, and it's also only for entertainment value. So simmer your jimmies down to like, a 2 or a 3. Appreciate it. So, with all of that out of the way, let's talk specs and size, shall we? Clocking in at 60 tons, it is the same, give or take, as a standard main battle tank of today, within an acceptable margin of error. Now, so far, so good. They are on average 7.08 meters or 23 freedom units long, 4.86 or 16 freedom units wide, and 4.42 or 14.5 freedom units high.
That's a huge bitch!
This makes this twice as big as a standard main battle tank while being approximately the same weight. This is achieved through warp magic fuckery known as plasteel, a common enough trope in every sci-fi universe, and for that reason alone I will let it slide. Because, of course, even the back-asswards Imperium of Man can manufacture metamaterials. Take a look at Auramite, Ceramite, so on and so forth, with power armor. Now, I am well aware that the Russ has an inertial dampener to allow for the tank's ability to fire on the move stabilized. So that negates this thing actually flipping over on its side if it wanted to fire a broadside, given how tall it is compared to how wide it is. Believe it or not, we actually tried something, not us, but Sweden, I believe, tried something similar to this earlier with an M60 Patton. And the results were just as you would imagine. Anyway, if there's one thing we all know, though, shit breaks all the time in 40K. Just because you didn't pray at it right. Or because you used the wrong sacred oils. So, if that important piece of 20,000-year-old technology just happens to break on the fly, your firing arcs are going to get limited real quick. And it's a bit of an overlooked flaw for the Mechanicus, but those toasters aren't going to fuck themselves, are they, boys? You filthy degenerates. Anyway, a basic bitch crew of 4 is required to run this, with that number increasing based on the variant and however many extra weapons this thing is mounting, such as the sponson-mounted heavy bolters. So, also packing a V12 engine that can literally run on anything from Promethium to Amasec. It's got a pretty decent range, all things considered, at 360 kilometers, moving between 35 and 21 kilometers an hour on and off-road respectively, with some tanks being reported being able to go up to 70 kilometers per hour. And I'll be completely honest, that ain't much better than anything that's going on today, so it's pleasing to see that military R&D and procurement still sucks in the grim darkness of the far future. And it is also sporting a fully enclosed, full hull rhomboidal track system. And that took a lot to get out correctly this time. Anyway, all in all, this thing looks like someone slapped a comically oversized turret on a Mark IV tank from World War I and said, good enough. And, well, to be honest with you, that's really the aesthetic that 40K is going for, in case you haven't guessed. Someone's making happy shovel noises in the background, I just bet right now. Anyway, but you shouldn't be surprised when units look like this, and this, and this. Alright, moving on to guns, and boy, oh boy, does 40K love its guns. The primary battle cannon for the Russ is a 120mm smoothbore gun, wrapped in a water jacket to allow for an increased rate of fire. But depending on the variant, it can have twin-linked auto guns, twin-linked heavy bolters, twin-linked las cannons, twin-linked Punisher guns, the Punisher gun, flamers, twin-linked Volkite guns. You get the idea. But if I focused on each one of these, this thing would turn into a looting video before I could even imagine. So I'm just going to look at the venerable basic bitch Russ tank. 120mm is the same as current arsenals of today's armies. Now, the range and lore is about the same within a reasonable margin of error, and as well as the general penetration powers, again, within acceptable levels of scaling. And for the love of Saint Celestine's golden bustier, everyone already knows that it's more advanced. But G-Dubs isn't exactly in the habit of going that deep into the technical lore of ammunition. They just say, the mechanicus guards their secrets. You know why? Because they leave it up to us to come up with this shit on our own. Anyway, so this thing has up to 4 more guns. The bow mount, 2 sponson mounts, and a crew commander's gun on top. And this is often fitted out with crew-served weapons, as is on main battle tanks of today. So, las cannons, heavy bolters, heavy flamers, giving this vehicle 360-degree coverage, with only really doubling up on the flanks and going full tilt in the first 90 degrees of frontal coverage. But it still gets 360 degree all around, and that's, well, good enough. Now that's a lot of guns. Guess what? That requires a lot of ammo. Now this thing packs 40 main gun rounds with an average of 600 rounds of either bolter or auto gun ammunition. Realistically, again, this is the same as contemporary tanks. Quick aside here, for a tank I'm supposed to be ripping a new one, I really am having a hard time finding a lot of faults in this thing. The main gun is linked to all manner of OSPEC suites to guarantee first strike hits, including laser rangefinders, terrain mapping, and crosswind indicators and radar. And it's likely, if not the same, is slightly different to contemporary ballistic computers, on which all do currently the same thing, right down to how much the barrel droops in between shots. You know what? In conclusion, yeah. The Imperium's design philosophy is stagnant as hell. It's a selling point of the game, for Pete's sake. And aside from its proportions, there's not a whole lot wrong with its design. Its over-the-top size has got to do with more with artistic license than the design of a competent military-industrial complex. And if I were to improve this design for the Imperium without being declared a tech heretic and turned into a servitor, I would increase its length by about 1 meter, drop its profile about 25 to 30%, so just in case those fancy 20,000-year-old inertial dampers happen to go down because you didn't give it the right oils of the day, you won't go flipping over firing broadside. But aside from these very minor changes, believe it or not, the Leman Russ is actually a fairly competent tank. And it makes a lot of sense even within its own universe. It's mass producible. It's allegedly simple to fix mechanically and interchangeable with a wide array of the Imperium's arsenal. So against my better judgment, and because I'll have nothing more than a nothing burger controversy, I'm going to give G-Dubs a slow clap for getting one right once in a while. Good job, G-Dubs. Good job. Anyways, guys, if you like this content and you want to see some more, hit the old sub button. Maybe give me the old thumbs up. And it'd be real swell if you did. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.